Daniel Jeremiah has dropped his mock draft. Joel Klatt has dropped his mock draft. Bucky Brooks, Mel Kiper. You know who hasn't dropped their mock draft yet? DeanoTalksSports. Welcome to the DeanoTalksSports Mock Draft 1.0. The 2024 draft is one of the deepest and most talented drafts we've had in the last couple of years. There's a lot of great players that are going to fall, a lot of players that are going to rise. Let's start with the number 1 overall pick owned by the Chicago Bears. And in this scenario, I have the Bears trading away Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a second-round pick, or maybe a third, we'll get there. It's not a first-round pick. That's all we know. And the Bears are going to take the number 1 quarterback on my board, Caleb Williams. Easy. I mean, he's one of the best. He's probably the second best quarterback prospect we've had in the last decade, right behind Trevor. I wouldn't go as far as calling him a generational prospect. However, what he does on a football field is amazing. He's got excellent pocket presence, great arm. He's going to go to this Bears team who's above average offensive line, going to have some good weapons, especially if they sign or draft a receiver with their 9th overall pick. I love the fit with Caleb Williams in Chicago. It's a no-brainer to me. Going towards the Washington Commanders, this is a pick highly up for debate, which we'll get into in later videos with my co-host here. But for me, it's going to be Drake May. Drake May is my quarterback 2. I think he's a lot closer to Caleb Williams than he is to my quarterback 3, Jaden Daniels. He's just prototypical size, great arm. I think he'd be a great fit with Cliff Kingsbury. I know these guys in the new front office for the Commanders are going to love him. This is another no-brainer for me in my eyes. Now we get to the first pick that maybe not a no-brainer for the Patriots. I think there's a lot of things that can go either way here. You think Marvin Harrison Jr., you think a trade out. By the way, no, I didn't say at the start. No trades in this mock. This is a tradeless mock draft.
Yes, sir.
So they're sticking and picking at 3. Who do they take? I think they got to go quarterback here. I don't have them signing a veteran in free agency. And that's going to be Jaden Daniels, a deserving QB3, a guy who has the potential to be an absolute superstar in this league. I think he'd be a very good culture fit for that Patriots team, for that new Patriots team. It's not Bill Belichick anymore. It's Gerard Mayo. He can come in here. He's got a high floor with his pocket presence and mobility already. You hope you get him some weapons to build around. He might have a little bit of trouble transitioning from Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas to Devontae Parker and Kendrick Bourne. But at the end of the day, if you believe he's a franchise, he's a franchise. You take Jaden Daniels here at 3.
100%.
Now maybe the most no-brainer pick in the draft, maybe a person who deserves to go number 1 overall. I have the Cardinals taking Marvin Harrison Jr. here. I'm not going to sit on this one too long. He's the best receiver prospect maybe ever, and you're going to pair him with a great quarterback in Kyler Murray. You take him. He should have gone 1, really.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's beautiful fit.
It's so beautiful.
Now to one that's going to surprise a lot of people. This is one of my hotter takes. I think he's the best defender in this draft. I think the Chargers are going to love him. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to love him. Give me Cooper DeJean from Iowa, the cornerback who can play safety, who can play linebacker, who can play nickel, which I think is going to be his best role. This Chargers team really needs a culture fit. They need a new culture, and I think Cooper DeJean can bring that. He's a football player, man. He's a fantastic athlete. He's smart. Again, this defense needs a lot of help. This team needs a lot of help. I think a great starting piece is a high floor, incredibly high ceiling player like Cooper DeJean. Going to the Giants now. 3 quarterbacks off the board. Do they take a J.J. McCarthy, a Bo Nix? No, I don't think so. They desperately need playmakers on the outside. And we're going to go with my number 2 wide receiver in this draft. It's going to be Rome Odunze out of Washington. Big-bodied wide receiver. My pro comp for him is DeAndre Hopkins, just a little taller. Fantastic when the ball is in the air. He's a fluid route runner. He's fluid after the catch. You can't go wrong with this guy. My biggest knock on him is that he's in the same draft class as Marvin Harrison Jr., So if that's your biggest knock, I think we're doing good. To the Titans, Joe Alt falls right into their lap. It's simple. They need offensive line help desperately. Joe Alt's going to be a fantastic offensive lineman. You can argue him as a top 5 pick, but in this scenario, Titans luck out and get a guy who's probably going to be a perennial Pro Bowler to an All-Pro at left tackle. Now, number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. 3 quarterbacks off the board already. Do they take maybe a little bit of a reach on a J.J. McCarthy, a Bo Nix? In my scenario here, they pick up a veteran in free agency. Raheem Morris wanted that, in my opinion. Like a Kirk Cousins, per se, which you'll see why in a little bit here. But I have them taking Terrion Arnold, the cornerback out of Alabama, a guy who has true lockdown boundary corner, number one corner potential, hyper athletic, really great in press and zone coverage. I think Raheem Morris is going to really appreciate having, I don't know why, A.J. Terrell and Terrion Arnold on the boundary just cooking in that defense. Going to number 9, the Bears with their second pick get another receiver. To pair with DJ Moore, you're going Malik Neighbors here, wide receiver 3. Fantastic.
So nasty.
After the catch, yak, rack, yardage, all that stuff. Hyper explosive, great when the ball is in the air. Like him a lot. And DJ Moore, Malik Neighbors, and Caleb Williams, that's franchise-changing stuff in my eyes. Number 10, New York Jets. Desperately need offensive line help. It's a no-brainer. Take an offensive tackle 2 here. Olu Fashanu, freak athlete. A guy that maybe needs a little time to develop, but he comes into this league as probably the best pass blocker overall in this draft. Build around Aaron Rodgers while you can. You take that with an offensive tackle. Number 11, the Minnesota Vikings. In my scenario, they don't have Kirk Cousins anymore. And I think they're going to go with a quarterback I think they're very high on from what I've heard. J.J. McCarthy, the Michigan quarterback, the national champion, going over to throw to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, with a great quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator and head coach in Kevin O'Connell. It's a great fit there. I think he could take time to develop. It's rare you see a player that's got a high floor as a game manager when he gets to the NFL and still has a high enough ceiling to be a potential top 15 to top 10 guy someday. Pick number 12, the Broncos. A lot of people have them going Bo Nix here, a quarterback that's on the board. It's a little rich for me, although I think Bo Nix is a really great fit. If you have a guy like Jared Verse, my number 1 edge rusher on the board here, I think you go get him. They still need help along the defensive line in my eyes. John Payton's going to want a very good defense. You could argue Dallas Turner here. You know, that's a lot of other people's edge ones. I like what I see in Verse. I see a guy, great power rusher, great effort. That's what you want to see out of your defensive lineman. I think he'd be a 10-sack guy plus early on in his career. I love that fit there with the Broncos. Number 13, the Las Vegas Raiders. Another team. Antonio Pierce, you know he's going offensive line. You know he's going to want to go in the trenches with Zamir White. Take Talise Fuaga here. Offensive tackle 3. Really sound, fundamentally sound athletic tackle. You can't go wrong with that pick. New Orleans Saints. I have them taking Dallas Turner here, who we just talked about. Again, they're going around the same length because I have around the same grade on Verse and Turner. I just prefer Turner. I prefer Verse. But no, Turner's the more athletic version of Verse. You're getting more of a speed rusher out of him. A guy with definitely a higher ceiling than Verse, but maybe not as high as a floor. You know, those are the type of guys that the Saints love to work with. High ceiling defensive linemen that turn out to be great players, such as Cam Jordan, Peyton Turner. Didn't really work out, but you know my point. That's their style of edge rusher. Pick number 15, the Colts, and we finally see Brock Bowers come off the board. It's a weird one with Bowers. He's a guy you could see go from anywhere from pick 5 to, in my opinion, pick 15. That's a lot of variance there, but it's weird when you have a tight end. He's not a fit for every team that's on this, like the first, 15 picks. But gosh, could you imagine? Let me paint the picture for you. You got Jonathan Taylor in backfield, Anthony Richardson right there. It's an RPO. You're reading Jonathan Taylor because he's really good. Oh man, now we have to read Anthony Richardson. Oh, then suddenly you're one-on-one with Brock Bowers down the field, and then Anthony Richardson just gets it there with a flick of the wrist. It's such a fantastic fit. So if you're not buying Colts socks next year, I don't know what to tell you, especially if they get a guy like Brock Bowers. Next, number 16, the Seattle Seahawks. I have them taking tackle, possibly guard in the NFL, Troy Fautanu out of college. Really, really great technician at the offensive line position. Excellent hands, excellent feet. He's very strong. He's athletic. Will he play guard? I think if he goes to the Seahawks, he's probably playing guard, especially if Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas stay healthy. But they had issues with that last year, and he's a good enough player to move out to tackle and probably be a damn good player at that spot. So I really like that pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Going towards pick number 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars need help desperately on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary. I'm taking Nate Wiggins, the cornerback out of Clemson. He's going to go to the combine. He's going to blow it up. He might run a 4.2. Yeah. That guy is fast. He's a big corner at 6'2", maybe a little lean for some people at like 185 pounds, but that's okay. The way he attacks the football, he's a ball hawk, And he's got a lot of, we saw aura, a lot of swag on him.
A lot of swag.
A lot of swag with Nate Wiggins. And I think that's a type of thing that Jacksonville defense secondary needs.
You want your quarterback to have swag.
Exactly. You want a cornerback with swag. Pick number 18 to the Bengals. This is a really easy one. You take J.C. Latham here. I think he's a better player than the 18th overall pick. They need help desperately. Not desperately, but they need help along the offensive line, especially at tackle. Big mauler in the run game. Good enough athlete to be good in pass protection. I love that fit. Pick number 19, Los Angeles Rams. Get gifted Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo. They need some defensive back help bad. Akella Witherspoon played admirably last year as your number one corner. We need to get a little better than that. And Quinion Mitchell, he's a guy that can go even earlier in this. He might be the first corner off the board. It all depends what teams like. And I think the Rams like Quinion Mitchell a lot. To the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick number 20. We're going to see Jackson Powers Johnson come off the board. Maybe it's a little early for a center. I disagree. This is a really, really good offensive line prospect. They really need a center. And suddenly the offensive line's looking a lot better. They got Broderick Jones, who was my top offensive tackle last year, who's developing. He could be a great tackle for them. Suddenly you have a good center. And then suddenly you have Justin Fields and Jalen Warren and Najee Harris and Arthur Smith, who's one of the best run game coordinators in the league. And suddenly you're like, oh, these guys are going to run the ball on us really badly. I think it's a fantastic fit. Going to my Miami Dolphins, he fell this far. I think he's a better player in 21. Give me a Latu, the edge rusher out of UCLA. Maybe not as physically gifted as Verse, and well, he's about there with Verse, but definitely not like Turner. But he's got the deepest bag of pass rush moves in this draft. You see everything: the push, pull, swim moves, spins. He's going to be an awesome complement to Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. And we had an issue with edge rushers getting hurt last year. Ginkle, Chubb, and Phillips all got hurt. We had to go in the playoffs with actual fossils, and we have some depth there at this point now with Latu. Number 22, the Philadelphia Eagles, my co-host team here, have them taking Amarius Mims, 6'7", 340 tackle out of Georgia. And you can take him as more of a project pick here. You put him in the back. Lane Johnson's going to play another year, maybe 2. Who knows, maybe even 3. But you have somebody that can fill in for him. Let's say he gets hurt. You never know. He's an older player. Guy that can fill in right now had, I believe, the best pass blocking win percentage in all of college football last year. And suddenly you have Jordan Mailata on one side, who's 6'8", like 380 pounds, and then you've got Amarius Mims, who's 6'7", 340 pounds on the other side. And that's a little scary if you are an opposing defensive lineman. Pick number 23, one of my favorite fits in this first round, Darius Robinson, the edge rusher out of Mizzou, coming through to play with Will Anderson, D'Amico Ryans, and this Texans defense. He's just a beast. 6'5", 296 pounds. He can play that kind of Eric Armstead role on that Texans defense that Eric Armstead played with D'Amico Ryans and the 49ers. Guy that can go into a defensive tackle spot on third down, but he's still extremely athletic enough and fast enough to play on the edge on run downs, even on pass rushing downs. I love it. I think they need help on the defensive line. They need to get some young youth, good players in there. Darius Robinson is one of those guys. Big number 24, another one of my favorite fits, Adonai Mitchell to the Dallas Cowboys, the receiver out of Texas, 6'4", big-bodied guy. My comparison to him is T. Higgins. Can be a very good number 2 wide receiver, complement to CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks is getting older. I didn't think he had that great of a year anyway. Michael Gallup, we can see, is definitely not going to be that true number 2 for them. Go get Adonai Mitchell, the Texas kid. Suddenly that offense is looking even scarier than it already is. Pick number 25, the Green Bay Packers. They're going to select Graham Barton, the tackle out of Duke. A lot of great athletic profile out of Barton. Good size, 6'5", 314, long arms. He can sit behind David Bakhtiari and learn. And when David Bakhtiari retires, or if he gets hurt again, you have a guy that can fill in that you're very confident in. Pick number 26, I have the Tampa Bay Bucks taking Brian Thomas Jr., and this is because I don't see Mike Evans coming back in free agency as of right now, and you get a Mike Evans replacement, 6'4", 205 pounds, same kind of archetype where he's just like, cool, I'm running straight down the field, I'm bigger than you, and I'm faster than you, I'm going to get open. He can fill into that role perfectly. And they'll miss Mike Evans, of course, 1,000-yard season machine, but hopefully you can develop this guy into that Mike Evans role and get him comfortable there. Next, Arizona Cardinals get gifted a guy that probably should go sooner, Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle out of Texas. There's a lot of discussion about who the best defensive tackle in this class is right now. While I don't think he's the best, I think he's a really good fit for that Jonathan Gannon defense. Comes in, really high-level pass rusher, great run defender. Good pick there. And then I have the Bills taking his running mate, back-to-back Texas defensive tackles, Devondre Sweat. Much more of that nose tackle, run stopper guy that I think the Bills can look for, especially because they play a lot of that base defense, high safety, cover 2 stuff. Devondre Sweat's my number 1 defensive tackle. This would terrify me as a Dolphins fan, and you're feeling really good about getting him at 28. Next, we have the Detroit Lions, and I have them taking another center in the first round. We're talking about, is it too high to take a center? Is it too high to take 2 centers? No, it's not. Zach Frazier. Love him. It's a really good center draft. From what I understand, Frank Ragnow is kind of looking towards retirement. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. And he's a guy that can come in and play guard for you as well, just bolstering that already really good Detroit Lions offensive line. Now, the Baltimore Ravens, we're going to take an Alabama corner to play alongside former Alabama corner Marlon Humphreys. Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's going to come in 6'2", physical, press man corner, that type of... He's a Raven. You get the vibe that he's a Raven, and if he falls that far, which I think he does, I'm not the biggest Kool-Aid McKinstry guy, but if he goes to a franchise that's known for developing these guys, I can see a real future there for Kool-Aid McKinstry. And then we have another corner come off the board at pick 31. The San Francisco 49ers select a guy I'm way higher on than some other people, TJ Tampa, out of Iowa State. 6'2", around 200-pound corner, really physical. He can play press man. He can play man coverage. I think he's better in that zone coverage kind of role. But either way, 49ers team that desperately needs some secondary help. I think TJ Tampa definitely does that for him. Charvarius Ward and him will make this defensive secondary a lot better. And with the final pick in the first round, how did we let this happen? If he went anywhere else, you might think, is he going to work there? Now that he's going to the Chiefs, you know he's going to work there. Keon Coleman, Florida State wide receiver, 6'4", 220 pounds, athletic freak of a specimen, deep threat, and you're giving him the Patrick Mahomes, who is the best quarterback in the league and needs some wide receiver help. Well, he won a Super Bowl without wide receiver help, so you get it again. Now you have Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Keon Coleman. It's looking real good over there in Kansas City once again. So there we go. That was the Deano Talk Sports Mock Draft 1.0. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments, what you would do differently, what you think that I did that you liked. Make sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button. We're going to have so much draft content. There's going to be Mock Draft 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. We're going to go over positional rankings. We're going to have arguments and discussions about who's better, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, a bunch of other player comparisons. Mm-hmm. But make sure, again, to hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a lot, and you get to keep up with all the draft content we're going to be pumping out. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one.